Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today is my Freight Broker Bootcamp Live every Monday at noon. Again, thank you for being here. Today, the agenda is really simple. We're going to do a live, okay? First, we're going to do some shout outs. So hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. We'll do some quick shout outs. Then we're going to do a live Q&A. So I hope you're ready. I hope you got questions written down and ready to go. I'm going to put a 30-minute timer on this. Here's why, because I got a lot of crap to do today. I'm sure you do too. So I'm going to set a 30-minute timer right now. And then when that's done, that's how much time you got to ask your questions, and we're going to try to navigate the best we can. So thank you for joining me. Hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. And then we're going to jump into Q&A. Hold your questions for now until we get through the shout outs, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. And off we go, guys. It's another Monday for Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today is, what is it? October 6th already. So let me set a timer real quick. Siri, set a 30-minute alarm. Okay, cool. So we got 30 minutes. So what do we got? TMP Hustle is in San Antonio. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Anybody else who's joining, hit me up in the comments. Corey Buchan, as usual, from Billings, Montana. And then again, we've had some really good Q&As lately, but I know you guys are all very busy. I know I have a laundry list of things I got to get done today. So I'm going to try to cut this a little bit short. Normally I go maybe 45 minutes an hour, but we're going to limit this to 30 minutes. So have your questions ready on standby, because when I say go, boom, I need you to hit me with those questions, and then we'll rock and roll. I'll try to do my absolute best to try to answer your questions. And if I don't have the answers, because believe it or not, I don't know everything, okay, I will try to point you in the right direction, okay? Brian, Daniel from Independence, Oregon. Awesome. So we got people coming from all over the country. We got Texas, we got Montana, we got Oregon. We got Scott Taylor, as always, from Lubbock, Texas. We got more Texas in the house. So we're getting a few people live. Hopefully we have a few more people join. And if not, and you're catching this on replay, that's okay too. You can type your questions in the chat box, even if this isn't live, and I will try to come back in later in the week and possibly answer those questions if I have time. And again, hit me up in the comments if you're a replay folk, hashtag replay. I love to hear from my replay folks. I know sometimes you guys can't make it live, and that's okay. No worries. I get it. Trust me. I watch a lot of stuff on replay that I can't join live. So Alexander from Chirac. I don't know where Chirac is, but that's cool, wherever it is. You can see that I got a busy day because I'm loading up with caffeine. So that's my agenda. I don't know what's on your guys' agenda. Oh, video frozen? No, I don't think so. It's not on it's not frozen here. And is anybody else? Give me a tech check, everybody who's live. Is the video or audio frozen? Are you having any sort of an issue? Israel from Morelia, Mexico. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. Is the video frozen on your end? Are you having a tech issue? Far as I know, it's working. The tech and audio is working, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's a LinkedIn thing, because I know you're joining through LinkedIn, Scott. But hopefully not. Hopefully we're not having any tech issues, although there's not as many people live as normal. So, Chicago/Iraq. Okay, gotcha. Okay, perfect. Alexander, thank you for clarifying. Awesome. Good on their end. Okay, cool. All right, listen. Without further ado, let's jump in. There's a small group. We'll probably be able to get through this in less than 30 minutes. So hit me up in the comments with your questions, and I'll do my absolute best to try to answer them. I get a lot of questions about freight broker startup and freight agent startup. I get a lot of questions about freight broker sales and how to get shippers. I get a lot of questions about, mindset and getting past the fear of cold calling and doing outreach and sales in general. I get a lot of questions about rating and niching down, what types of niches. So maybe that'll stimulate some of your questions. Please be specific with your question, okay? Be very specific. Don't just say, hey, how do I get shippers? Okay, that's really generic. Be more specific, okay? If you're generic, I'm going to give you a generic answer. If you're specific, I'm going to try to give you a specific answer, which is probably more of what you're looking for, okay? So without further ado, who's going to be the guinea pig and kick this off with the first question? 12:05. Again, remember the timer is running and we've got a limited amount of time. So where are we at with the timer here? Okay, so we have 25 minutes. Who's first? Who's going to win? YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook for asking the first question? Who's going to win? Maybe I should have some sort of prize for the first good question. Maybe I should have some sort of prize for that. The first good question. I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. The best question of the day, okay? I'm just going to pick one, okay? I'm going to try to pick one and I'm going to judge it based on its merit or how I feel is a best question. So don't get mad if I don't pick yours. The best question of the day, I'm going to give you a token of my appreciation, a small gift, something you've probably never seen before, something I rarely give away, but I'm going to keep it a secret. So let me know. And if your question gets picked, then you'll get the special gift. One person's going to win the gift. So right now, it doesn't look like anybody's going to get it because there's no question. So, I will ask you, I'm going to ask you for some feedback. I've been doing these live Q&As every week, okay? And I feel like there's some weeks when it's really good and there's some weeks when it's really bad or not really good. So what I'm thinking about doing, I'm going to be honest with you. Tell me what you guys think about this. I'm thinking about only doing these Q&As once a month. That way you guys would really be engaged. There would be a lot of really good questions. It wouldn't be a waste of my time. It wouldn't be a waste of your time. So let me know if you guys think once a month would be good. Here's Julie's got a question. All right. I'm struggling with expanding my shipper base due to obtaining carriers due to the credit status on load boards. Do you have a way to expedite that process? So your question, Julie, is how do I improve my credit so that I can access more carriers so I can move more loads? I'm assuming that's kind of the question. So Julie, you've been in business for a little while now. I'm not quite sure, first of all, you have to plug the gaps, fill the gaps in regards to what's causing the bad credit to show up on the load boards, okay? Because if you don't stop that, then it's like a leaky bucket, okay? So you got to plug that. I don't know what caused that issue, and we don't need to get into a whole lot of detail about that, but you first need to plug that hole. From there, it's like anything else, right? You build good credit by making your payments on time, and it takes time. Bad credit, unfortunately, can happen really, really quick with just a couple of late payments or a couple of bad, carriers reporting on you that you didn't pay your bills on time. So it takes longer to build your credit than it does to hurt your credit. So the only thing I can tell you is if you have some friendly carriers that you've worked with in the past, try to get them to report quicker for you. So maybe you give them a free quick pay, right? Or you give them some sort of a shorter pay, and then they report you where you're rather than paying in 30 days, you're paying them in 5 days. And what that can do is that can bring down your averages, because the way that these load boards, the way that a lot of these these load board credit ratings work is, number one, they pull it from different credit sources, but they also allow carriers, I believe, especially on Truckstop, I'm pretty sure they allow carriers to report credit manually. So I think you could report credit manually as far as a payment that goes in. Beyond that, there's probably nothing that you can do overnight to fix that issue, unless there was some sort of a dispute and you want to go through some sort of dispute resolution. But I hope I answered your question. I know it's probably not the answer you wanted, but there's no quick fix to bad credit, just like there's no quick fix personally for bad credit. I had bad credit when I was younger, and it took years to fix that bad credit, okay? That's why I never, ever let anything with my credit go, right? Like I've got I think I've been very lucky. I mean, I think I have like an 835 credit score right now, but that's because I am such a nut about making sure that things are paid on time. And I was the same way with my brokerage, right? You have to really focus in on that. So I hope that helps, at least a little bit. Question from Heather, Healthy Girth. Okay. What's the best way to build a new book of business? Do you find cold calling more effective, or is visiting in person better? Also, what tools do you use for prospecting? Okay, cool. So the answer to your question, should I do face-to-face or should I do cold calling? And the answer is both. Okay, so let me hone in on this a little bit. If you have the ability to, geographically with your niche, if you're doing a local or regional type of niche where it's in your backyard, then I would highly recommend that you do both cold calling and face-to-face. Here's why. Because there are going to be certain businesses you're going to reach out to where you're not going to be able to, face-to-face won't work. You're not going to be able to get your foot in the door. Then I would cold call them, and I would use email, and I would use LinkedIn. Or maybe I would use cold call, email, and LinkedIn to warm them up and then go visit them. So the 1-2 punch of cold calling and face-to-face is extremely powerful. So as long as you're comfortable doing face-to-face, I would try to get as much face time as I can with your prospect because it does differentiate you. So if you're able to get to that dock and shake somebody's hand and have a quick conversation and set up a phone call or set up a meeting, that's a win-win, right? So I like the 1-2 punch. I don't think it should be either or, because if you're trying to build a book of business quickly so that you can start generating cash flow, you don't want to limit it to just one or the other if you have an option. Now, if your niche is not in your backyard geographically, well, then you got to start using email and phone and LinkedIn and what tools you have, okay? As far as leads go, as far as generating leads and finding companies to call and building a list of prospects in your niche, I'm going to give you a quick link to a free resource. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find it here. It should be here somewhere. Here it is right here. Okay. Go to freightburgerbootcamp.com/free leads. That is a link, a special link to Apollo. That link allows you to sign up to Apollo, which has has tons of data on shippers and businesses all around the globe, okay? And this allows you to sign up for free with no credit card, okay? So you can sign up for free. You can go in there. You can start searching your niche. Say your niche is bottled beverage companies in New York, PA, New Jersey, and they need to be between 50 employees and 500 employees. It'll give you a list of those companies. And then from there, you can look at the company profile. You can see their website. You can see their phone number. You can see all that information. You can actually see who the shipping manager is, who the logistics manager is, who the warehouse manager is. So it's a great free resource. It costs you absolutely nothing. Now, why do they give it away for free? They give it away for free because they do sell additional data packages where you can get enhanced data. They do sell other tools associated with it. But the prospecting, finding, and searching in your niche is absolutely free, okay? It's crazy that they give away for free. I wish to God that this tool was around when I first started back in 2003. Trust me, data back then, I remember paying over $15,000 a year for data, for access to data, right? To access to a big lead database, to a business database that had really good, accurate data. So, it's a fraction of that now. As a matter of fact, most of that data is absolutely free. So hope that answers your question. Hope that helps. Again, this is an absolute free resource. Just go to freightburgerbootcamp.com/free leads. You can sign up with all you need is an email. You don't need a credit card, and you can go in there and start searching for shippers in your niche. Okay. Hope that helps. Okay, next question. Oh, Julie says, she clarified, it's not showing a credit score. My credit is good, but it's not showing a credit score. Well, Julie, I'm not sure why. You've been in business for a while. I'm not sure why, unless the carriers that you're using don't report to TruckStop, right? So what you have to do is you have to get some carriers to report to TruckStop for your credit to improve. So if you're not using carriers that use TruckStop or report to TruckStop, that's why you don't have a credit rating. I can tell you that I've had students that have started and within a few months had B credit and within 6 months had A credit. And that was just because the carriers that they were working with reported them as, with a solid days to pay to Truck Stop. So that's my only advice. Reach out to Truck Stop maybe and find out, how carriers can report, or if there's a way for carriers to manually report. I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah, but cash payment isn't going to do it, isn't going to build her credit unless they report it. Israel says, I'm starting training as a remote freight broker agent. How can I speed up my understanding of the business and being reliable? Okay. So you're new to the industry, it sounds like, and you're training and you're starting training to become a broker agent. Okay. How can you speed up your understanding? Well, number one, attend events like this where people gather and ask questions or talk about topics that are highly relevant. So kudos to you, but there are probably plenty of others. Read things like, like Freight Caviar has a free newsletter that has a lot of information in it about the freight, trucking, and logistics industry. So you need to educate yourself, particularly about the industry and even more specifically about whatever your freight niche is. So I would highly suggest everybody knows, my big belief, riches are in niches. You need to niche down, find your niche, whether it's like I started with Northeast Van Outbound, or whether it's produce, or whether it's oil and gas, or whether, it's refrigerated, or there's some in the Midwest, or whatever region you're at, you want to definitely niche down. Just start immersing yourself into sources of data, of information about your industry and your niche. If you can, find a coach, find a mentor, find an online course. It's the reason why I put together Freight Broker Bootcamp. When I was running my freight brokerage, I had hundreds of people coming to me, hey, teach me how to become a freight broker. Hey, teach me how to become a freight agent. And I didn't have the time to do that because I was all hands on deck running my brokerage. So I put together a course called Freight Broker Bootcamp. I put that program together. It's well known. I've had that program since 2009. Obviously, it's evolved since then, but it's well known to be the most cost-effective and comprehensive online freight broker and freight agent startup training program. It has a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee, and I've trained over 10,000 students through that program. So if you guys want to check that out, it's very inexpensive. It's self-paced. Go at your own pace. You get access 24/7, 365. So maybe that's a good resource for you. So I hope a couple of those tips helped. But congrats for joining the industry, and I'm sure you're going to do great. Jordan asks, if you were building a freight brokerage from scratch today, what would you do differently from traditional models to stay competitive in the next 10 years? Good question. Well, most likely what I would do is number one, I would focus in on technology that allows and enables my team to be more productive. Now, listen to what I didn't say. What I didn't say was I'm going to use technology like AI to lay a bunch of people off. That's not what I'm talking about. I would find people, my accounting department, I would leverage technology that enabled them to be more productive. In operations, I would do the same thing. In sales, I would do the same thing. So I would be focusing on technology that made their jobs easier and more productive and more profitable, right? So productivity equals profitability, right? That's really what it comes down to. So that's predominantly what I would be doing, is probably leveraging technology, continuing. Now, when I started my brokerage back in 2003, we built our own TMS. We built our own software. We built our own document management system. We built all of it from scratch. And, ultimately we ended up investing well over 7 figures into that. And if I did it today, I would not develop my own technology. I would leverage some of the software that's out there, some of the technology that's out there, because back then technology wasn't what it is today. There wasn't as many options. It was way more expensive. And now, because of, the democratization of technology and the SaaS business model, prices have went way down and competitiveness has went up in that industry. So they're more feature rich. They have more, and a lot of these companies are already building integrations with other companies and AI built into it. So that's probably one of the first things I would do. In addition, I would probably promote more face-to-face engagement with not only with our shippers, but also with our carriers from a relationship perspective. It's very difficult to beat, the feeling and the types of relationships, enhancing relationships with face-to-face meetings and events, things of that nature. So those are just a couple things that I would probably do different based upon where we are today in the marketplace. Ember, have you ever done brokering in the mining industry? I have not, but it brings back an interesting story. I had a client that was in the recycled rubber business, the recycling industry as a whole, out of New Jersey. And believe it or not, he owned gold mines. He owned thousands of acres. He was very wealthy. He owned thousands of acres in Montana. And he owned gold mines in Montana. Now, back then, you got to remember, gold was down here. The price of gold was down here. So it was very hard for them to mine and have it be profitable. But now with the price of gold, I just thought about him the other day. The price of gold is almost $4,000 an ounce. Okay. So I've often wondered, because I haven't talked to him in many years, if that industry, if those mines are now active because of the price of gold. Now they can actually make a profit off of mining and those types of things. But, there comes a point where the cost of mining exceeds the yield, right? The return on investment. But now with the price of gold, and you got to remember back in 2003, let me see. I'm just going off on an off topic here, but I don't have any personal experience. Price of gold, 2000, let's do it 2004. Yeah, the price of gold, the average price of gold in 2004 was $400. So now it's almost $4,000, right? So it makes a big, big difference. So hope that that's really irrelevant to you. I do not have any personal experience in brokering loads in the mining industry. But I'm assuming that mining equipment has to be picked up and delivered. I'm assuming that, that raw materials need to be moved, right? And again, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge specific to that industry, but I know there are trucks involved. So if you kind of peel back the onion and dig into it a little bit, I'm confident that there are 3PLs and brokers involved. Okay, what do we got? Few more minutes. We got 8 minutes before our 30-minute timer is up. Who else has questions? Let me see. Did I miss any? If I missed your question, type it back in the box and I will try to answer it. Yeah, while we're waiting for a final question here, it's crazy. Gold is almost $4,000 an ounce, which, I've been investing in gold and silver's almost $50 an ounce. Silver was $49 an ounce this morning earlier. It's 48 and change now, but I started investing in gold and silver maybe about 5 years ago. I wish I would have done it 20 years ago, but about 5 years ago. And I'm talking physical gold and silver, meaning buying actual gold and silver, physical coins and bars and a variety of different types of gold and silver. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's become a hobby and obviously can be very profitable. Question from Avery. Can we get contracts from shippers or do we have to create contracts ourselves? Okay, so if shippers require a contract, they will typically have their contract. They will require their contract. So they'll have a shipper broker agreement. If they do not require a contract, you could use your own contract if you want, but you don't even have to have a broker shipper contract in order to do business with them, as long as they understand that you're operating as a broker. Okay. Now, in my Freight Broker Bootcamp Startup Program, we do have a shipper broker agreement. We have a shipper carrier agreement. We have a shipper broker carrier, and a broker agent agreement. We have all the agreements you need inside the Freight Broker Bootcamp training program. So yeah, if the contracts, just know that when you're doing a contract with a shipper, all it's saying is this is the shipper's responsibility. This is your responsibility. It's not saying, hey, we're going to guarantee you, 10 loads a day or 10 loads a week or any sort of a volume. Very rarely does that happen, especially at the get-go. Now, you can develop relationships and even contractual terms where there are volume type of agreements that allow you to give them, better pricing or better service or something specific that they need based upon a certain volume. But in the spot market brokerage, which is where most brokers live, you're really not going to do that. You're going to operate on a lane by lane, day by day, relationship driven type of volume that you're going to be able to build. Now, of course, there are RFPs and there are annual bidding, processes that particularly larger companies have that will, that still don't necessarily guarantee you a certain volume. It's kind of a best efforts. Maybe they're going to tell you, we'll commit to giving you 1 load a day or 4 loads a week or 10 loads a week, whatever it is. But ultimately, if their volume goes down, they don't owe you anything, right? So it's really not a contract so much as it is, it's not a contractual commitment as much as it is kind of a loose term sheet, right? Something like that. So I wouldn't get wrapped up in contracts because, to be extremely honest with you, they're really not worth the paper they're written on. If you have some concerns about liability, the thing you want to make sure is that they understand your credit terms and that they pay you on time. I would tell you there was a lot of shippers, probably more than 50% of the shippers that we ever did business with, we never had a contract with. We had a credit app with them. They filled out a credit app before we started running business, but we never had a contract. And then on the other side, there were some shippers that required a shipper broker agreement. And, if the terms of that agreement were acceptable, then we signed it and we started doing business with them. If they weren't acceptable, then we tried to negotiate the best terms. And if we couldn't negotiate it, then we walked away. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a brain dump, Avery, about contracts. Raquel, what's the best niche to get into? If I had a nickel for every time I've been asked that question, I'd have a lot of nickels. Probably more, not as many nickels as I have gold and silver, but I'd have a lot. There is no right answer when it comes to the best niche. Quick story. When I first started, my niche when I first started was van, right? Full truckload van freight that originated in the Northeast and went west or south. So if it picked up in New York, PA, New Jersey, all the way up through New England, and it was going west or south, okay, that was my niche. Now, if it was going from Atlanta to Boston, that was not our niche. We did not do that. If it was going from Chicago to Boston, that was not our niche. But if it was going the other way, Boston to Chicago, Boston to Atlanta, right, any of those types of lanes in a van, that was our niche. We specialized in that. And then eventually we strategically expanded Northeast flatbed and Northeast refrigerated freight. And then eventually we had a big client that we were doing business with out of New Hampshire that had other facilities in the Southeast. And they had been asking us, they were really struggling with moving the freight down there. They had asked us to help them. So we did some due diligence. We looked at the market and we decided that it was an opportunity for us to expand our niche into another region. And we use that client as a way to get our feet wet, build the carrier database, understand the rates, and then expand our service with them and then other shippers as well. So that's kind of how I strategically increased our niche. And then eventually we had niches we had teams and agencies that worked on different niches. We had agencies that specializes in DoD freight. We had agencies that specialized in produce. We had agencies that specialized in over-dimensional freight. We had agencies that specialized in cross-border freight between US and Mexico, and so on and so forth. So eventually we started in a very small niche and then we expanded strategically into all these other niches where eventually we were moving freight almost everywhere. Okay. So yeah, I hope that helps, Raquel. Okay, Linda, do you have a resource for getting licensed and bonded as some states require? Being a licensed freight broker is not a state by state issue. It's a federal issue. So the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and the DOT oversees freight broker licensing. So you don't need to do state by state. It's a federal licensing. So you go to the FMCSA and you fill out an application. It costs you $300 for the application, and then you got to get bonded and you got to check some boxes and stuff, but it's really not that complicated. That's one of the parts of the Freight Broker Bootcamp Startup Program. We do a complete walkthrough of exactly how to get started and get licensed and bonded and all of that as a freight broker. Again, that's a small piece of what we have in the Freight Broker Bootcamp online course. And then obviously there's everything else on, on rating and niching down and sales and all that sort of stuff. So that would be a resource for you. You could also check on my YouTube channel. I also have some free resources there. Type in my channel, search for a video, Freight Broker License. And I'm sure that there's a couple of videos in there where I talk about the process of getting your FMCSA Freight Broker License. So hope that helps. Good question, Linda. Oh, that's the timer. All right, so we're going to answer one more question. Anybody else who has questions, type them in the chat box. I'll try to get to you later. What would be the best profiting niche to get into? The best profiting niche is the niche that you have knowledge in and are committed to selling value over price. I know that's not what you want to hear, okay? But the reality is every niche has their cheap options and every niche has their premium options. This is just the way it is. I don't care what product you have. Every niche has their providers that sell on rate, and every niche has providers that sell on value, okay? Now, as far as different industries that can be very profitable, every industry can be very profitable. I made a ton of money in bottled beverage industry shipping water, of all things. Okay, water. A terrible commodity, okay? Right? Bottled water. You can make a ton of money doing that if you have the right clients, the right relationship, and you're selling value, not price. A lot of people like the produce industry because it's perishable. Obviously, there's some price sensitivity there, but also because it's perishable, it's one of those things where it's got to move quickly. It can't sit on the dock. So, sometimes the rates, depending upon supply and demand, depending upon the seasonality, sometimes people can make good money in the produce industry. The same thing goes for, the bottled beverage industry. The same thing goes for, for the produce, the overdimensional, right? High, wide, and heavy stuff, right? If you got overdimensional, overweight stuff, that takes a very specialized knowledge that you can learn, but those are high value dollar loads, right? You might move a load that costs $50,000 or $100,000 to move that load because it's got a lot of complexity built into it, right? And on that, you might make $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. I'm sure that brokers make that sometimes with these very high value loads, but again, they put a lot of time and energy and resources into it. So my answer to you is there is no niche where, expedited is another one. Let me just talk about that for a second. If you have the ability to service companies on an expedited basis, most expedited shippers do not shop their rates as much as a straight up van load. But again, it's also going to cost you a little bit more because now you have to have a team, right? You got to have a team driver. So it's impossible to identify the most profitable niche. And if I did, what would happen is everybody would move to that niche and it wouldn't be profitable anymore, right? Or everybody would try to dive into that niche and then there'd be a lot of competition. And when there's more competition in a niche, it drives price down. Here's what I'm going to tell you as a general rule. If you want to see more opportunities and you want to see higher profit, find bigger problems, solve bigger problems. Find issues and challenges and problems that are complex. Look for complexity if you want to create opportunities and create margin. So I hope that helps. Raquel, bonding ranges based on your personal credit and your experience level. If you have really good credit, you could get a bond for $1,000. If you have really bad credit, you might pay $10,000. So the only way to know is to submit an inquiry. If anybody's looking for a really good bond partner, someone that can really look out for you, who has really competitive rates, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond. If you fill out that form, they know you coming from the Freight Broker Bootcamp community. And I promise you, they will bend over backwards to take care of you. I can't make any promises on exactly what the rate is, but I've had so many students that have went there and have just had amazing feedback. They've got really competitive rates. They've really taken care of them. So again, if you guys want to know what your bond cost is, maybe your renewal's coming up and you want to check it out, or maybe you're brand new and you're looking to see what your bond cost would be, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond. And I think you'll really be happy because they're great guys. Okay. All right, guys. Hope that helps. Hope that helps out. I got to roll. I told you I was going to do 30 minutes. I actually did longer. And type your questions in the chat box. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to come back in the rest of the week and answer any of those questions that you guys do have. And if you are interested in just becoming a freight broker or learning the steps to become a freight broker, freight agent, or you're looking for a guide on freight broker, to become a freight broker, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Trained over 10,000 students, had that program for over 15 years now. And we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. Now, beyond that, if you're already a freight broker or a freight agent and you're struggling to get shippers, right? You're struggling to get clients and you're struggling on the sales side. You don't understand how to sell properly to get clients and start moving their freight. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. That's a sales mentoring program that I put together called my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. I put over 1,000 students through that program. We've had a lot of great success stories. You've been very fortunate. You can get on the wait list. That program is sold out right now, so you can't get enrolled. But if you want to get on the wait list, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. Let me check really quick what we got here. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. Set a reminder on your phone for next week, Monday at noon. We'll be doing another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have an awesome day.